Everyone, and welcome. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You're welcome to today's episode of Winning in Business Summit. If you're excited to be here, I'd like you to share your favorite emoji in the chat box. And can you tell us where you're calling from or where you're joining from? Oh, thank you, Okpeyemi. Welcome, everyone. Our guest is here already. If you're excited to be here, I'd like to see your comments in the chat box. Kindly tell us where you're joining from. If you're joining from Nigeria, you're joining from diaspora, wherever you are. We'd like to see that in the chat box. A very big welcome to each and every one of us. I can see that we have 11 participants already. If you are on the WhatsApp platform, I'd like you to, join the administrator to inform others that we are here, we are live, and we are ready to go. Our guest speakers are here already. You can take a screenshot of your screen as well. You can put it on your WhatsApp status just to remind your friends and loved ones that you are here already. How many of us are excited to be here? Because I am, and I'm sure that our guests are also excited to be here. It's another opportunity for us to learn. Last week was powerful. If you recall, if you joined, we spoke about business viability, identifying what business to start with. And our host and convener, Oladipupo Clement, shared a lot with us, a lot that if you've started executing them already, I'm sure that you'd have started noticing some remarkable changes in your business. And today we have Josh Sweeney in our midst, and he's going to be sharing with us on how to market and sell at scale. A lot of us have started businesses already. We have made a couple of sales, and then we think we've gotten to the peak. But Josh is here to push you to your limits. He's ready to stretch your mind. He's ready to give you tips and strategies on how you can excel in your business as entrepreneurs. We have targets every year. We say, oh, I want to make this amount. And sometimes we meet that target. Sometimes we surpass it. Sometimes we face challenges due to poor marketing and, faulty strategies. But, Josh has been here. He has done that. He's going to be sharing from his wealth of experiences on how we can do this better. So we're going to be starting in less than 5 minutes. It would be nice for us to wait for some of our friends so that they do not miss out and they can join the conversation. So if you are on the WhatsApp platform, like I said earlier, please join the administrator to remind your friends and family. And also, if you shared with your friends, I think you can just share the link with them, tell them we are live, we have started already, and you don't want them to miss out because we will start in 2 minutes and you really don't want them to miss out. So while we wait for others to join us, I would like to speak to our participants. If you were here last week and you learned something, I like to see the energy in the chat box. Tell me what you learned. Tell me what you can remember. Whatever points is it that you can remember. Remember that 9 points were shared with us. So which one can you remember? Which of the viability points can you remember? I think I can remember 5, but let me hear from you. Or you want me to remind you? Okay, let me start. We talk about availability of fund. Who remembers that? So when I'm saying it, you say, oh, yes. But as you remember them, you can put them in the chat box. We talked about availability of skill. In no particular order. We spoke about strategic fit. We spoke about Sixth Sense. We spoke about government and priority. We spoke about, let me check my notes. Okay, we spoke about ease of implementation, profitability, risk exposure, availability of markets. Yes, availability of markets. So if you missed it, good thing is this session is recorded and it's posted on YouTube. So you can head over to the YouTube channel. We're going to be sharing all of that with you before we end. Why are we quiet? Do you want me to call your names? I feel like I'm the teacher here and I have the attendance list here, so I can call your names. Do you want me to call your names? Okay. Thank you for joining us, Fabi Odunayo. I can see your name. Fidelis Atta, good to see you. Gorgeous J, good to see you. Joseph Olukayode, multiple OCs. I celebrate you, Opayemi Ola, Promise Goody, Shola, Terry Wells, one of our guest speaker. We appreciate you. Good to have you join us, ma. Tony Adedapo, Utibe Delight David, Uyai, Eke James, and the host of others that will be joining us. I want to welcome you to Winning in Business Summit, and this will be part 2. Last week we had Oladipupo Clement, and today we have Josh Sweeney, telling us how to market and sell at scale. So while we're waiting for others to join us, I would like to read the profile of Josh so that you know the caliber of the heavyweights that we have in the room with us. So Josh Sweeney is a seasoned entrepreneur whose relentless drive has given him the platform to build big ideas and even bigger companies. One of his successes, AdCore Systems, was acquired in 2016 by a leading partner in the CRM industry. I mean, that's a good place to jam your hands together and celebrate. That's a great fit. You know what it means to build a business and then someone comes to you and say, I love this business and I would like to buy it. It means that you've done a good job. And if you can sell one business, it means that you can build another, sell it, build another, sell it. And I'm sure some of us want to be at that phase. You say, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Okay, first build one successfully and then you can move on to the next thing. And that is what Josh is going to be sharing with us. So I'm not done with his profile yet. So experiencing the impact of various sales and marketing challenges over the years, Josh founded Founder Scale. He has made it his mission to help founder-led organizations to increase sales. I mean, that's the whole essence of business. If you're not selling, I don't think you should say that you're in business. So because you're here to make profit, except you're even a charity organization, even NGOs, they have a target for donations. So how much more when you say you're a for-profit business? So because of his passion for growth and forward thinking, he donates his time to the Entrepreneur Organization of Atlanta, guiding and promoting other entrepreneurs through his experience sharing and camaraderie. When he's not driving his businesses or mingling with other business leaders, you can find him in the recording booth where he has recorded over 100 pieces of educational content about sales and marketing. And I can agree and attest to that because I visited your website and I saw the couple of multiple sales and marketing podcasts. I saw episode 52. I can't remember exactly what the title was. I also went to YouTube and I saw a recent podcast that you had with a friend where you were talking about your business as well. You were talking about entrepreneurs. I haven't completed watching it, I must confess, when I started already. Okay, so if you're excited to see Josh join us, all the way, you can imagine you're here in Nigeria or wherever you are in the US, in different time zones, but he has made out time to be here. You know that you're important. He's committed to you. He's ready to share. And it's not just about hearing, because, great meetings don't make great people. It is the decisions that you make out of this meeting. And, like one of my senior mentors would say that there are 4 types of people in a room. So out of 100%, you have 25% who will do nothing, 25% who will just listen, 25% who will just be there for attendance. And then the last set, 25 people who will say, I'm going to pick just one thing from this segment and I'm going to run with it. Sometimes you don't have to pick all of it because it might not be applicable to you at the stage that you are in your business, but there is definitely something for you at this meeting. So the fact that you're here today, it's very important that you pay attention and look out, come with expectation, come hungry, come with your questions. Be ready to ask within scope, out of scope, outside the box, within the box. Don't say they didn't speak to that aspect. That is why you have seasoned entrepreneurs here. They are ready to share with you. And I'm sure that you're ready to listen. Your heart is ready. Your pen is ready. Your journal is ready. Don't say it's going to stick. No, you're going to forget. And if you're here, don't say I'm going to watch the replay because it's most likely that you might not watch it. So please pay attention, and I can assure you that you would not regret this. At the end, I'm going to invite Josh right now to start speaking to us. And at the end, we're going to share the best way to connect with him so that you don't start writing in the chat box, how can I connect with you, sir? What is the best way to reach out? So you don't worry. We have you covered. We've got you covered. We have all of those details. So let's enjoy the class. Let's welcome. So he's now our very own Josh Sweeney, as he talks to us about how to market and sell at scale. Yes, I thank you. Thank you for jamming your hands.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you. We can hear you.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you for that opening, Stell. You're an amazing MC, and it's awesome to have so many people from across the world, right? So I see a lot in Nigeria, and just a month ago was the first time I had been to Africa, which was an amazing experience. So thank you for having me. All right. Well, I am going to share my screen, walk you through my content. Hopefully it's going to help you with your business and understanding, how do you scale marketing and sales together? So just let me know when you can see my screen. Everything okay?
Yes.
Good to go.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So this is how to scale revenue with demand generation. And as Stella mentioned, I spent about 9 years building a CRM consulting firm, grew it to a few $1 million, and had an exit, which was an amazing experience. But one of the hardest things as a founder is scaling past yourself. So through that 9-year journey, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations as the main salesperson, which in most businesses, most small businesses, the owner is the main salesperson, and trying to figure out how to get out of that role. How do I scale my sales and marketing past me, the expert who was bringing in a majority of the revenue? And so that's what I'm going to share with you is just some lessons learned from that. And just to give you an order of magnitude of the lessons, this is what my lesson looked like. This is what it looks like with $300,000. So I burned through over a course of a few years, $300,000 trying different sales and marketing tactics and strategies that didn't work for me as a small business. And so one of the challenges is we look at sales and marketing, we look around us, the big companies, the big brands, and we think that's the way it's done. And at that scale, that can be true. But for a small business where budget is tighter, we need marketing and sales that's much closer to revenue generation. What we find is the majority of founders spend a lot of money and waste a lot of money on things that don't give them results. And so that's really what I want to help you with today is like not to go through the experience I went through blowing $300,000. And again, it may start off with 10, it may go to 20, eventually you look back and it's a lot, right? As the business scales up. And that all depends on, the success of the organization. So what I want to share is what I call the lead generation dream. So most entrepreneurs, what they do is they're the founder or leader of the organization, and they decide they want to scale past themselves. So they've got to hire somebody internally, externally, a marketing agency, an SEO company, whatever that might be. So this founder needs to scale past themselves. So they hire a company or a person that they think is going to be able to help them scale up revenue. And their expectation is they're going to pay this company or person, and that person's going to bring them leads, and then they're going to be able to take those leads and close them. What we find really happens in this situation is the founder spends a lot of money and doesn't get the financial ROI. So let me give you an example. This is what they call a meeting setter. So this is where you hire somebody to make a lot of outbound calls on your behalf. They're supposed to use, LinkedIn and email and all these different things to get meetings set for you. They're going to make the introduction. You get to convert and close those leads and go make money. So a meeting setting service can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on the size of the business, the complexity, and other things like that. And what we found is after usually about 6 months, once you've spent thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, you realize that even though you may have gotten some leads, you may have even gotten one deal from this, you usually didn't get revenue in proportion, right? That would create ROI for you in proportion to what you spent. So you spent way more than you got in results from this service. So this happens all the time. It's a meeting setter. We see this a lot with ads. So for example, especially in the B2B services space, we don't see ads generally generate enough leads that you can convert to where the deals that you get pay for the ads and the cost of delivery. So there's no ROI. And so this example goes on and on. Pay-per-click ads, SEO, hiring a marketing agency. All of these things don't work very well at the beginning and at the early stages in a small business. So if these don't work, why does this not work, right? You look out and again, you see these other big brands doing it. And sometimes you get a little win here or there, but you don't get the ROI. So why does this happen? Well, when You look out at the ecosystem, lead generation, the concept of thinking that you're going to pay somebody and they're going to generate leads for you. What happens is they're going out to all these channels and bringing you something that's hot that you're expecting to convert and close. But these companies really haven't engaged with you before. So that's very hard to do. It doesn't normally happen. Why do big companies do this? Well, the thing is one thing to remember before I get to the examples over here is lead generation only works, the concept of lead generation, in specific conditions which are not normally prevalent in a small business. So what are some of those conditions? What's an example of what I'm talking about here? One example is name recognition. So think of the biggest brand in your area. I don't know if you have these brands where you're at. You probably have heard of, I've seen Deloitte signs all over the world. Deloitte, HubSpot, Cisco is a global company. Those are some big examples. So you probably recognize these names. So when these companies decide to do lead generation and start calling on people, start calling CEOs and executives, they're much more likely to get a response and get a meeting. So it can work for them because they have massive amounts of name recognition because they've been doing all sorts of sales and marketing. You might have already seen their name. You might have already been to one of their conferences if you're in one of their areas, right? So just think of the biggest name in your industry. And what you'll find is they have a leg up on you. This could be your industry. It could be an NGO, the biggest nonprofit. All of those are things that somebody else is paying, and they have that name recognition. So when they take these tactics, it works, but it's a lot harder to make it work when you don't have name recognition in place. And I'll share one more example, and then I'll take a break and see if there's any questions here. So the second thing that happens that's not normally in place for small businesses is what we call an engaged audience. So think of an engaged audience as this. This is a group of people who probably are on a list, right, in your CRM or in your database where they've engaged with your brand in some way or another multiple times. So I'll give you an example. Ola has many people that have engaged with his brand. So if he does outreach to somebody who's engaged with his brand, they're probably going to respond, and it's going to be positively, right? If they've never engaged with his brand, it's going to be a lot harder to get them to show up, and you're going to have to work referral systems in other areas. So keep in mind in the lead generation sense, when most founders also say lead generation, there's also this connotation that it's cold, right? You haven't engaged with them before. It's a cold lead generation campaign. So I think that's just a unique thing to keep in mind. We don't want cold lead generation. We want warm engagement. So these bigger brands have lists of thousands of people who have engaged with their brand. Maybe 6 months ago, they were on a webinar. They might have been to a conference. They might have been on the newsletter. So they have engaged audiences. So again, that's another factor that small businesses like us don't usually have in place. So if you don't have name recognition and you don't have an engaged audience, this thing called lead generation that everybody promotes isn't going to work in your instance. What are you to do? So before I get to that, I want to open it up and see if anybody has any questions. And Stella, I only have one screen, so if you have any questions, if you're taking those, just if you could read them to me.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Thank you for that amazing starter. There is no question for now from my
Okay.
end. I would let you know as soon as we have a
All right. Yeah, if
Thank
anything
you. We're
pops
good
up,
to
just let
go.
me know. All right. So if this doesn't work in the small business context, right? We're a small business. We don't have the name recognition. And keep in mind, you may have name recognition in a niche, but we're talking about name recognition across thousands of your ideal client. You know, if you don't have an engaged audience and this isn't going to work, again, what do you do? What are the options? So there's a concept out there that you can check out online or research called demand generation. And this is really where founders start. So when I spent $300,000, I had this concept that I was going to be spending money and somebody was going to be doing lead generation and getting me leads because I needed the quickest return on investment. What I found was it just doesn't work that way, right? I was trying to hit the easy button, and the easy button honestly doesn't exist in entrepreneurship, right? We took a road less traveled. If we wanted the easy button, we could go get a job. So demand generation is the process of consistently engaging your target audience, people that buy from you, so that when they have a challenge, when they have the challenge that your business solves, they think of you and your company. And this is the same in nonprofits. This is the same across the board, right? Because a challenge in a nonprofit is maybe somebody came into money. Maybe they decided this year as a family they wanted to donate more, right? So their challenge is now I need to take an action. Who is going to get that money? Or in your business, throughout the year, people have different challenges in their business and they say, well, I need to solve this problem. Who has already engaged with me and built the relationship that I'm going to go buy from? So there's a timing element that comes into sales and marketing that most people don't think about when they start with lead generation, and demand generation addresses some of that. So let's talk about how demand generation addresses that. Demand generation is one step above lead generation. Whereas with lead generation down here, the goal is to convert and close somebody that's really already warm. They knew your name, they engaged with their brand, they wanted to talk to you, and you get to convert and close them. Okay. But what do you do when you don't have that? Demand generation, and the goal of demand generation is to engage and educate, just like we're doing here, right? So I'm engaging and educating. It's part of our platform and part of our business model to do demand generation. And since our business is to help entrepreneurs, we get to go, hopefully take the lessons and expensive lessons that we learn as a company and help other entrepreneurs skip that hardship through the education. So we engage and educate just like this, or by being on stages, or if you go to our newsletter, our Scaling B2B newsletter, there's engaging content. It's not about us, it's to help. So demand generation, again, is to engage and educate. Now, how do you engage and educate? How do you need to be thinking about demand generation if it's fundamentally different from lead generation? We give you what we call the demand generation formula. And that is value plus frequency over time. And by over time, I mean consistency over the course of time. So I'm going to dig into these three areas. So first, value. What happens in many cases with lead generation, the thing that we're saying doesn't work for small businesses, you email them, you LinkedIn, you're like, here's what we do, and you just spill it on them and you say, let's have a meeting, right? And they know you're trying to sell them something. That's not engaging and educating, and people get these emails and messages all the time. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind around demand generation is providing value, okay? So this is a good example. Ola puts this together. He and his team are providing value. He's inviting amazing people on that are also providing value. They are, in fact, by being on and speaking and sharing, providing value and working on demand generation. Okay. So now you know of us and you think, well, if I've tried I've tried lead generation multiple times and it didn't work, or if I hear that from another entrepreneur, then it triggers and said, oh yeah, lead generation doesn't work at small businesses. You should do demand generation. Talk to Josh at Founder Scale, right? Same thing with the person that was on last week's, right? You're going to think of them to solve that problem. So first and foremost, we want to provide value, not just try to sell people our item. The second thing is you need to add frequency. So think of this. Give you a quick example on frequency. One item with lead generation is you reach out on LinkedIn, you need to try and set this meeting, but on demand generation, as I mentioned, you're a one-to-many. So instead of reaching out on LinkedIn and just asking for that meeting, I may also reach out on LinkedIn. If I know I'm going to be on this meeting today, then my team is going to reach out on LinkedIn and say, hey, we're doing this amazing webinar. Here's the link. You should join this webinar. So I'm using the same channel, but with a different method to provide value instead of asking for something first. So what we say is, are you doing a ask, right? Over here, just asking somebody, or are you doing a give ask? Have you given to that person twice before you're asking for at least even their time, right? In the form of just a sales meeting. So in demand generation, the model is give, ask. In lead generation, it's also often ask. And with give, ask, again, you're providing value up front because you have to give. All right, let's layer in frequency. So hopefully y'all get value, providing value. There's lots of examples of value, and I can answer any questions on that. Frequency is how often you talk to somebody. So again, going back to lead generation, you buy this list, you do all this outreach, you exhaust the list, you don't get any results. What happened then? So you reached out to somebody one time, it didn't work out, and then they're gone until when? I don't know, right? So with demand generation, we add frequency. So we want to stay in front of our target audience, our prospects, every 30 days with value. So let me give you an example. I'm on this meeting, so that would be day one. I may also invite you to go to founderscale.com/scaling B2B, sign up for our newsletter. You're going to get more content from that newsletter. So we're going to have another touch point with you. Now, from this, I may also do another webinar in the future. I may do a networking event with other people in similar businesses. We do local events and dinners. So I'll say, okay, everybody that I know in a certain industry, we're going to invite an industry expert in. We're going to pay for dinner, and we're going to put 10 CEOs in the same industry in the same room. It's going to be an amazing experience, and we want to invite you in. So we're looking at frequency and building out a calendar and saying, how can we have multiple touch points every 30 days that provide value? Why? Because somebody may not need your service today when you reach out. What we're doing is we're saying, you know what? When the challenge comes up in their business that we solve, we want them to remember our name. So if somebody says, I need to scale revenue in my business, Founder Scale is the first name in their head because we've already engaged with them in lots of different ways that provided value, and we didn't just disappear. And you can probably think of this for yourself, right? I don't know about you, but I've had people email me once or twice, and I'm like, man, that's a really good service. I could use that service, but we're not there yet. I think that's on my 6-month roadmap. Like that's a Q4 kind of thing. And then 6 months later, it's like, who emailed me that? No idea, right? So I go through Google and I try and find who emailed me, and I can't find their name. And then I have to go find somebody else to solve that problem, right? They just lost out because they didn't continue to stay engaged where I remembered their name and it really stuck. So with demand generation, it's value, providing value, plus frequency, which is how often you're providing value. Okay. So if there's any questions at any point, feel free to throw those in the chat. I can pause at any moment and answer them. So the last and third kind of key to this model is time. So value plus frequency, which is how often over long periods of time. So what also happens is somebody may send you something frequently. So they follow up 1 month, they follow up 2 months, they follow up 3 months, but then they stop. So 18 months later, again, you want to kind of using the previous example, you want to solve that problem. You don't remember who they are because buyers have different timelines. Think about the things that you've purchased, even for yourself. You may have wanted to purchase something for a spouse or your kid, and you saw it at a store and you're like, that's going to be great. I need to get that for my son's birthday. But your son's birthday is like 9 months away. You might have forgot what it was, right? If you didn't write it down. Now, I've gotten good at writing those things down over time, but from a brand perspective, you want to stay in front of people perpetually. And that's one thing that happens with a lot of founders is they think about marketing and sales almost like a roller coaster. They try an initiative and then they stop, and they try an initiative and they stop. What really has to happen is you have to determine what initiatives you're going to run for the next 10 years. And what are going to be little pushes. Because with sales and marketing, it's a compounding effect. There's no easy button, one item that you sign up for and just makes you scale your business. It's a compounding factor where you're now staying in front of people. So for example, we don't get a lot of leads and aren't big proponents of ads, especially in the B2B space. However, if you go to my website and you were in the US, you would see our ads for the next 90 days. We run those ads on a very low budget indefinitely, and that's just part of our foundation to stay in front of people over time. And that's for us at least, it's a very small budget. We spend about $50 a month, and we just make sure if somebody searches Founder Scale, everybody else's ads don't come up first, and then we're sixth in line as the first organic result on Google. We still want to be the first from an ad perspective. So we go capture our name and keep the budget super low. We have low expectations for the return. That's a foundational item for our company. So you have to really think about what can you run over time that never goes away, that's just part of the compounding effect from a sales and marketing perspective. Any questions on that, Stella? Are we doing good?
Not yet. We're doing good.
All
The
right.
only question we have is on SEO, and we can take that after the presentation.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
can cover that. All right. So a lot of people like, give me an example. Like, what could this look like in our business? So this is one example that we run, a very common example where the blue dots are monthly. And so what we would do is we would have a newsletter. And so like my goal, and this is part of our program, we do a good bit more in our business, and this scales based on budget, right? So with more budget, you're going to do more. So we have a monthly scaling B2B newsletter. So that's a touch point every month coming out from our team. In addition to that, we have a relationship manager that sees who opens and engages in our newsletter and actually calls them and says, hey, how are you liking the content? Is there any other content we can provide? So it's not just about the newsletter. It's not just to fire and forget. We're also engaging with the people who engage with us and building that relationship. And we're not asking for anything. We're just asking how we can build a better newsletter, and we're getting to know them in their business. I also work to do speaking events every month. So my goal is to either be on a webinar in front of an audience or on a podcast at least once a month at a minimum. And usually I'm ending up on 3 or 4 a month. And then the stages start to get bigger. So this is our monthly. And then we overlay that with a quarterly. So all those people on the newsletter, people that see me speaking, that join, and the list that we build up, then get invited to a quarterly webinar. Next, we may do an educational dinner, as I mentioned. We're working on a big entrepreneur scaling survey where it talks about the challenges entrepreneurs are having with sales and marketing and scaling their revenue. And so we got a survey that's going to come out. And then there's also going to be a report in addition that founders can learn from. So what you have to keep in mind is these are all just touch points for us. They're ways to provide value consistently over time or frequently over time. And we have ways to engage our audience and stay in front of them. And another example we have here is our report panel. So when we do this report, the next quarter is we actually bring some people on that answered the question, and we do a hosted Q&A via webinar to engage all the people who want to know and get more insights from the results. So all kinds of engagement to, again, educate and engage on this demand generation model. All right, so that's an example. So as a recap, if you don't have name recognition, if you don't have an engaged audience, and your expectation is to do what's called lead generation, like mainly cold outreach, and get an ROI, it's probably not going to work out in a small business. That's how I blew $300,000 on lots of different things. So we really have to change our mindset and our expectation as founders. For demand generation, the main thing that you have to take away is engage and educate. If you're engaging and educating with a group of people frequently, you will get business. So at the outset, it sounds like a longer term strategy, and it kind of is, but you're building relationships. You're scaling the business just like you started the business, by scaling up relationship building, not trying to jump over and show people ads and do things that maybe you don't have experience doing, or maybe even enough budget to do. So really engaging and educating is often scaling how you already built the business to this point. And then as a last, as one more item, just recap again, value plus frequency over time. So provide value frequently, right, on a recurring basis over time. So you have to stay in front of people for much longer periods of time so that when the challenge arises in their business, they think of you. And I'll leave you with one last thought. Nobody remembers the name of the last person who sent them a cold email asking to set a meeting, right? That cold meeting setting. People do remember the names of speakers at events, people that invited them to dinner and break bread together, and those who engage them on a human level. So hopefully this has been helpful, and I'd love to hear any questions that you might have.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. This is really good stuff, man. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much. This is really, really good stuff. How many of you derive so much value from this? Um, just let's celebrate Josh. I will hand over to Stella shortly. I just want to appreciate this this time. Thank you so much. Please let's celebrate. Let's
Yeah, thank
celebrate
you.
Josh. Let's celebrate Josh. Over to you, Stella.
Wow, you couldn't have said it better, sir. This was really amazing. This is really amazing. I mean, I've not heard this strategy before, and you running through it and then explaining, it makes more sense and it's more real than running adverts when I might never know you and I'm like, who is this? When you're not a big name, I don't want to mention any name of the brands. You see some brands and then you recognize it. And I see some other brands, you don't even look at it twice. So this is a better strategy. It's a better way for entrepreneurs to invest their money. And I feel like it's cheaper. But then as you scale, it begins to increase. I mean, if you know you got value, I can even see the accolades. They're giving you your flowers already in the comment section. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Keep
Thank
it
you.
coming. Keep it coming. If you have questions, please type it in the chat box. We will not miss it. I can see you already have 3 questions. We will take them, but if you have more, let's keep them coming. Let's keep them coming. Thank you so much, Josh. This really makes a whole lot of sense. Demand generation. Let them be the one to come for you. Be in their face by doing give, acts rather than just asking directly. The need for human engagement. This is so good. This is so good. Using educational content as well. This is beautiful. Sequence is great. Yes, Tony says the sequence is great. Everyone can understand this. Yes. I mean, there's no drama. It's just straightforward. Straightforward.
Right.
I like it. I like it already. The accolades are still coming. Okay, so I'm going to take the questions in no particular order. I want to read Okwemi David's question. He says, just asking, has lead generation ever worked in the history of lead generation for small businesses or brands? Or is it non-effective for small businesses as you have advised? Just challenge with the saturation and the noise online every day in this current time and age. He wants to know if lead generation has ever been effective for small businesses or brand, or you just advise that they switch completely to demand generation. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is like what works and what is the intent, right? So when I say what works, the expectation is if I spend 3,000 on something in sales and marketing, I really have to get $9,000 back, right? Because when I deliver it, a third of it's going to be a delivery cost, a third of it was the service, and then there's a third maybe in profit, right? So or other expenses sometimes depending on the type of business, right? So what works is, am I getting 3x the return? That's a pretty hard bar for a small business. And the smaller the budget, the harder it is. Have I seen it work? Not from a cold perspective. So if you use the concept of lead generation being cold, not very often. There have been unique situations. So there's certain industries where if you can find a company that specializes in doing all of the branding and all of the demand generation, and then they sell you the lead and you pay a price for the lead, that can work. So for example, I don't know how familiar anybody is with like the personal injury. So it's when you're in a car wreck, at least in the US, you're in a car wreck, you have insurance, and if you're hurt, you're looking to get more money from the car wreck to cover health expenses and things like that. So it's a personal injury attorney. So there's services that are already going out and doing all the demand generation. They have a website. They're spending all the money. They're spending millions of dollars a year that you don't have. And when you fill in the form on their site, what they do is they turn around and sell you that lead for, let's say, $300. So then you have to have your stuff together really well, because you're probably going to have to buy 10 leads to close one of those, depending on how good you are in sales. And you have to have somebody that's really good on the sales side to follow up because you're paying for each one of those. And only 1 in 10 leads usually turn into opportunities if you have no prior relationship. So it's higher if it's a referral, of course. It's, 6 and 7 out of 10. So if you want to do lead generation and just pay, you have to find somebody that does basically all the demand generation in your exact space and then brings you those leads. So that's the only time I've seen it work. And then you still have to have the money up front to know that if it's $300 a lead, you're going to have to spend $3,000 to get your first deal. And so you have to run the economics. You have to make sure your sales processes are in place. So have I seen it work? Yes. It just gets a lot harder and a lot more nuanced. And there's still actually a significant capital outlay. So if your budget, if you don't have, $10,000 to try this, you can get started with demand generation today because it's you, it's your voice, it's your brand. And that's kind of the beauty of starting with that point is if you start doing it, maybe you find a company that can help you like a lead gen and you get that one off, but demand generation start today because it's your voice. All you have to do is go get on, you can put in your name to get on podcasts, you can network and get on webinars, you can just get going with almost no money. So that's part of the beauty of that program.
Wow, thank you so much, Josh. That was really straightforward, and then you hit the nail on the head. So to whoever asked the question, I forget what your name is right now. I'm sure you got value in that response already. It's harder. I mean, you've gotten wisdom. So, just make the switch today and determine what value you want to give, the timing, and determine the frequency. How do you want to be in your space? Incredibly, Josh already shared with us his own strategy, how they always send you a newsletter. They invite you to, get on their newsletter, invite you for their speaking engagement. And this happens on a monthly basis. It talks about, being in the face of your prospects or your clients every 30 days. So you need to determine what your touch points are. I'm sure that the touch points would vary for different businesses. So first you want to ask yourself, what is my business touch points? Do I need a newsletter? So do not copy Josh's template and just run it for your business. You want to find out what would really work, what is the best fit for your business. So if you think a newsletter will work, why not jump on it? If you think speaking engagement will work, jump on it. For you, it might be webinar, the educational dinner survey. There's several things that you can do, and I'm sure that it will come through. So Chinex also has a question. Thank you for that, Josh. He says, what's the best strategy an SEO agency can use to provide value? I think Chinex runs an agency.
Yeah, so from an SEO is very unique. I have kind of a passion for SEO, especially content SEO. So for those who may not be aware, SEO is getting listed in search engines. So when somebody searches on Google for the challenge that you solve as a business, you rank highly, right? You're found on Google. My favorite part of that is content SEO, where you're writing helpful content on your blog that helps you rank higher from an SEO perspective on any search engine, Google, Microsoft, other search engines that may be regional. So I like the content SEO because I can also give that to my sales reps. I can also use that as a touch point. So I can give you an article that says, what is scalable revenue? What does that mean? What is the founder's journey? I have content on my website that during the sales cycle, I can send out. When I'm on these, I can give away links very easily because we've written about these topics. And then we've SEO optimized them because there's 2 steps to, blogging. As one example is there's writing it and there's SEO optimizing it. And Google's really smart to know whether you're just trying to hack the system, right? They want you to write good content and optimize content. So I love SEO. The other thing I love about SEO is it's what I call an infrastructure lift. Whereas ads are something where as soon as you stop paying, it's gone, right? So as long as you're paying them, there's something happening. With SEO, you're building up infrastructure, right? You're building up sales and marketing collateral that you keep forever and can use in many ways. So early on, I'm a big fan of SEO, especially over ads, especially in more of a B2B or professional services businesses. The one thing I see that's the biggest misstep is for founders is thinking that SEO generates leads. So can SEO generate leads? The answer is yes. Are you going to get enough leads to offset the cost of writing all those articles? Usually no, right? So again, it's the same challenge from an ROI perspective. But there's one extra thing you can think about, and this is where a lot of SEO companies don't make the second leap. There's a formula, right? So SEO is really demand generation. SEO plus conversion optimization equals leads. So let me give you the example and kind of play that out for those who may not know about conversion optimization or SEO. SEO, the only job and quality to qualify an SEO firm, like you're working with somebody who says they know what they're doing in SEO, is, are they driving the right traffic to your site? Right? That's not a lead. They're just driving people to see your brand. As from an SEO, a pure SEO perspective, that is their job. It's not to have them fill in the form. And that's where most SEO shops stop. So you have to then either find somebody or work on it yourself to do what's called conversion optimization. That's where you look at the number of people that go to your site and you determine how many then engage with content and do a download. So most of the time they're paying for SEO, they're getting to your site, and the only thing you have on your site is a contact us. Well, going back to demand generation, you're not providing value. So in conversion, you might have a pop-up to get on a newsletter. You might have a pop-up to download our latest books. So like if you go to our site, you're going to get a pop-up to download our book. You're going to have these different things for different people to engage with because you don't know why they're on your site. So you need to give them different ways to convert when they visit. That's where SEO plus conversion becomes leads and it has more value. And that can be challenging. So that's kind of, there's little tweaks where we look out and we say, well, I got an SEO firm so I could generate leads, but usually an SEO shop doesn't do the conversion piece of work. That's a different company, but you don't know that as a founder. I only know because it was a $60,000 lesson. So I already had to pay for it and learn the lesson. So hopefully that helps your question. I know that's a lot of information.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that, Josh. So participants, I'm sure that you've noticed that you don't have to pay $60,000. You don't have to burn or blow $300,000. That's a lot of money that some people have never seen, but they will see eventually if they take up all of these lessons that you've shared. If you start engaging demand generation, I mean, Josh can assure you, and I can assure you by faith, I'm leveraging Josh's experience to say that you're going to make $300,000 and more. But first, you need to change your strategy. So, if you are one who engages in SEO, you as a strategy, you've spoken to your leads, maybe people that work with you, and tell them, oh, we get traffic, but this traffic is not converting. Now you know why. So if your website is empty, it means that you need to give a lot of value. So if you've given an engagement, maybe you've spoken somewhere and it's recorded, you want to put it on YouTube and find a way to embed it on your website so people know that there's another touch point. You have a YouTube channel where they can go to. If you also have a LinkedIn page, don't just write contact us and put an address. You might want to connect them to maybe a microsite, and like just mentioned, you can also do a pop-up. You can do maybe just an FAQ and make it into a booklet and say, oh, get this ebook and get acquainted with terms in this industry and something. Everyone is always looking for a freebie. Everyone likes giveaway. Everyone likes a bonus. So why not give out something? Demand generation is about give. How are you engaging with people? People want to know that you are concerned about them. I'm always excited when I get on the website, they ask me for my email. Once I drop my email, I see that they send me a book or something. I'm like, oh, these people are intentional. Even though we know it's automated, it just makes you feel good that at least that process is in place. There's another question that we have. Emmanuel, kindly mute your mic. Thank you very much. We acknowledge your presence. Thank you for joining us as well. The question says, what can I do in a situation where a client says this is not the best time for me to maybe invest in maybe real estate, buy a property? I think Josh has already responded to that already, but I'm sure he'll be happy to, recap or reiterate. Perhaps you came late and did not get that. Josh, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think it does go back to that demand generation, right? They're not ready to buy now. And so how are you going to stay in front of them so that they don't forget about you? So that when they, it's in the back of their head for a reason. They showed up to your meeting and spoke to you for a reason, but now's not the time. So what you don't want is them to think about, okay, a year from now, they're ready to buy real estate or they're ready to buy whatever your service is, and they forgot who they spoke to. Right. And you're like, oh, well, they won't forget about me. It's like, well, think about how many messages you get hit with every day over the course of a year. So it really is about finding ways to stay in front of people, stay top of mind. The other thing you can do is what we like to do is say, okay, if you're not ready right now, maybe we can get other people together that aren't ready. I would want to know, what are their blockers? So there's different ways you can tease out the not ready. Is it not ready and they're just pushing you off? They don't want to buy from you? Is it they're truly not ready? And there's other events you can do. So for example, if you're in real estate, you could do a local event of 10 other people that are getting together for drinks that are thinking about getting in real estate. And it's like, the title literally could be thinking about getting in real estate, question mark, right? They're kind of kicking the tires. They don't know yet. They don't know what they don't know. So now you're the one that put them together, connected with other people. And sometimes that can even accelerate it. So maybe they weren't thinking about doing it for a year, but because they met other people that were doing it successfully, they're like, this is actually going to move up. I'm going to do it next month. And then they're talking to you because you hosted that event. So again, it's that demand generation process. The closer you can get to a relationship, a human relationship, the better you can scale in the early days of the business. And by early days, I mean, like, we see this as very common for like sub $3 million companies. So there's still a long, there can be a long way to go depending on the size of the company.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Josh. So Yusuf has a question. He says, what strategy can your radio station use to increase their revenue and listeners?
Yeah, I can't say that I've worked with a radio station, but I do think it is all about, building the relationship between the brand and your listeners. So usually radio stations or any media has a certain theme, right? They have a certain demographic, a certain age, a certain style. So like, I know what I see a lot of times is the radio stations are hosting events and they're going where their people are. And I think this is good for anybody, right? Think about where your audience already is and go there. That's where you can find clients. So if, and I'll try and think of an example, but like, I know for me, I listen to rock, alternative, different things like that. So if I go to an event that's hosted by the radio station that plays that, they're getting their brand in front of me. They're usually doing giveaways. They normally, like, I know for me, and at least here in the US, like, they do a lot of the ticket giveaways to the other events. And so they're just, again, they're looking for ways to engage on a human level, one-on-one or one-on-many in person, so that somebody, when they get in their car, when they go home, that's the radio station they choose. And it's really the same, it's got a lot of similarities around staying in front of people.
Wow, thank you for that. Yusuf, I'm sure you got the response. Think of where your audience is and go there. You have a theme, there's something that stands you out or differentiates you from your peers. Why not, milk it, build an event around it, find a way to be in the spaces of these different people. There's something that Josh said when he was responding to the question about this is not the best time for me to maybe do anything or buy product or service. I like the fact that you talked about learn to tease out the blockers. And I think that this is very, very important. Sometimes when, as an entrepreneur, you're selling to someone and the person tells you that you're not ready, sometimes I'm not ready is the most convenient thing that they can think of saying. And then it's left for you to see if you're resilient to say, why are you not ready? Your ability to, like you said, tease out the blocker, find out the reason why they're not ready. It could be money, and it could be that your company offers paying in installments. So if the person says, "Oh, I don't have the money," you're like, "Oh, we have this. You can pay in installments," and then the person will be like, "Oh, wow, good offer." So I like that point where you say, "Tease out the blocker." Find the reason why. Find the reason why you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So if we have more questions, please. I'm looking at the chat box. Please put more questions. The good thing is that one of the ways that you can get the best out of your facilitator is, like we said, he has experiences in business. I don't know how many decades, but I'm sure he has had decades of experiences already. And he cannot, touch on all of the points. But when you ask questions, you are able to lead him where he did not go to. And that way you're able to get value. Okay, so there's a question. Thank you. Okay, so AK James says, can you play a scenario on how a new real estate company can use demand generation to get sales? I think you have already responded to this already, and I don't know if Josh wants to recap, but you don't want to do the work. You want Josh to do the work for you. I think Josh is very nice.
It's go build relationships.
Yeah.
Everybody I know. I have a friend in commercial real estate, and he's one of the most amazing people, but he's amazing in that even after success, he still goes and knocks 60 doors every week. So literally, wow. He has significant take-home pay. And normally when people get to a certain stage, they stop doing the hardest thing, which is, knocking doors from, he's in commercial real estate. So they do some placements and everything else. So you don't have to network as much because you have other people doing it for you. He still does it. So I think the thing with real estate, and it depends if you're talking commercial or residential, those are different. But from a residential perspective, it's all about how do you scale up the number of relationships. So it is that demand generation. It's the newsletter about picking a new home or taking care of your home, and then they know you're the person to go to. It's anything that you can provide value from so that your name stands out instead of, maybe the other residential real estate agents that are in those people's ecosystem. So I do think it comes back to that demand generation process of, provide value frequently over time.
Thank you. That's beautiful. AK James, I'm sure you got value. So while I'm still waiting for your questions to come in, Josh has been so gracious to share with us touch points which you can reach him on. He shared with us his LinkedIn profile. So you want to connect with Josh, Sweeney Josh on LinkedIn, and you also want to follow him on Instagram. And then the website is also up. You can check the website, like he said. I have the website up on my phone already. I don't know if you can see. You might not be able to see it, but one of the things that pops out at me, which Josh has reiterated severally this evening, is download our book, Scaling B2B Revenue with Demand Generation. Now, this is a give already. He's not even asking you for anything. He's not saying come and do business with me. He's not saying come and consult with me. He's giving you value. So if this is something that interests you, you're going to put in your first name and then your email. And once you do that, you get something from him. And then you see him every 30 days, and then it goes on to build the relationship. So from, it started cold in the sense that you did not know Josh. I did not know Josh, but now we've met him through a touch point, the website. He's giving us value, a book in time. And then frequently he sends you a newsletter and then it becomes warm. Every time you hear Founder Scale, you're like, oh, it's familiar. The logo is already familiar to you. The recognition just comes, and then over time you tell yourself, oh, I want to do something about, scaling. The first person that will come to your mind is Josh, because he has offered you that service. He has given you value already. So don't hoard this information, share it with people. You can see the chat box already has the website. You can see the website, founderscale.com. You can see his LinkedIn profile, Sweeney Josh, and on Instagram, Relentless Founder. And then you can also search for him on YouTube. You see interviews and discussions that he has had with different people. You can listen to it, and definitely something would jump at you. And like he also said on his website, just below you see the list of the podcast. He has over 100 episodes, so you can listen. I'm sure that there's no way you would listen to 100 podcasts of quality content and value, and your business will remain the same way. It's not possible. Even this single strategy, demand generation, can change the life of your business forever. So if you're ready to take your business a notch higher to the next level, demand strategy is what you should use. So we have one more question. Please, it's not when we're about to round off. You now start pumping in the questions. Please start typing your questions already.
That's
Thank
the
you,
last,
Radiant.
that's the last one we'll be taking.
Okay, last one. Sounds good. Yeah,
We need to respect Josh's
That's okay.
time.
Yeah, we'll do one more.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to our host, and thank you to Josh as well. We are an agri-business sector firm developing and marketing farm estates, also offering for management services for the prospective agripreneurs. A good number of leads has been generated using webinar, but commitment of fund is a bit low. What do you advise?
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. So I would say from a webinar perspective, there's a author, if you haven't heard of him, Russell Brunson. And Russell Brunson has a 30-minute like ultimate webinar training. And I don't remember, I want to say it's like $100 or something. You go buy the video. And he goes through why webinars don't convert. And I think it's some of the best content. I've done a lot of webinars and still refer back, to his content. And sometimes you have to decide, like, is the webinar for education or is it for conversion? Right. And so your early webinars may be just for education around agribusiness. And you may find the people that are most interested, you need a different style of webinar, which is more of a conversion webinar. And so knowing the difference between an educational and conversion webinar is going to help. But Russell Brunson goes all into in his videos what a conversion webinar is. So as founders, we're really good at educating a lot of times. So we do good on the educational, but we don't walk them through the logic to convert them at the end. And so there's a good book. Russell Brunson has, I think, 3 different books, but just go look up on YouTube his webinar. I don't remember. It's like $1 Million Webinar or something like that. And he's got lots of great content. So it'd be way too much for me to share here, but there's awesome information already out there on like conversion webinars, which again is very different. So I think that's the key point, is knowing, when should your content be educational, demand gen, and when should it be conversion? And usually the conversion comes after you've had multiple engagements, right? You don't want that to be your first thing. They don't know of you. You need to train them on the agribusiness. You need to train them on the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Josh. I'm sure that Radiant Impact already got what the response is. So, Josh has mentioned that there's a podcast or a program, an audio program you can listen to by Ross and Bronson, and then you can also check out some of the book titles and see the ones that speak to your scenario. And I'm sure that we'll find the name and then we'll share with you. If you're on the WhatsApp group, we would share with you Ruth. We'll share with you. We'll find out and then we'll share with you. Even the link to the program we'll share with you as well. So this is let me welcome our host and convener to help us celebrate and appreciate Josh for this time. Over to you, sir.
I'm not surprised. There's a difference between theoretical teaching and then practical teaching. When you're a practitioner, it shows. And so please let everybody on the group, on the call, let's celebrate Josh. Let's celebrate Josh. This is incredible, really, really, really incredible. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you for accepting to be a part of this program. And I'm sure we've really, really gained value. We've dropped your details. I'm sure a number of people are certainly going to be reaching out, and I'm also certainly going to be reaching out too, so we'll have lunch very soon. We'll have lunch.
Yeah, happy to help. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh. Deeply appreciate your time. Deeply appreciate this quality information. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Participants, can we show our gratitude to Josh? Let him know that his time was well spent. And the good thing is that you're going to come back with testimonials, you're going to come back with results, everything that you've heard, it's just even one thing, demand generation. That is what it is. So you want to action my business or mean to my business or mean to my sector. I'm definitely sure that demand generation is applicable to all sectors, all sectors. So you cannot say I didn't know how to apply it. You definitely find a way to. Okay. So congratulations. I can say congratulations to each and every one of us because we got value today and definitely would have feedback, positive feedback on the group. Tell yourself, you still have the weekend. You still have the weekend. Find how you can apply demand generation to your business. Thank you once again, Josh. We really appreciate you, taking time out to share with us. And we also want to celebrate Dr. Oladipupo Clement for sharing his relationship with us because, I mean, if not for Josh today, but he's different. I'm also proud. So now, I like the way this is going. So now you have decided on the business that you want to start using the different metrics that we have. Now you know the business you want to start. Now you know how you're going to market. Now you know how you're going to scale using.
Stella, your network is failing. All right, so Josh, we thank you so much. You're free to leave. I'm sure
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deeply appreciate.